Bizarre Brain Comics. Oh, hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Yeah. And this time, I want to have a look at this issue of Superboy number 194 from 1973, DC Comics. This was written by Leo Dorfman with art, some really nice art by Bob Brown and Murphy Anderson doing the inks. It comes out really sharp. I showed this just a few weeks ago in a haul video. And I said at the time that I think I've got, or at least had another copy of this, and just a couple days later I accidentally came across it. So now I've got two copies of this one. But I don't mind, because it's one of my favorite issues of Superboy from back then. I only, most of these titles back, I just got sporadically. I didn't get every issue. And of course, this is the Super Merman of the Sea, and I've always liked mermaids. So I've also been a big fan of Aquaman, and to a lesser extent, the Submariner. And of course, the Man from Atlantis TV show. And one of the nice things about it, it's a one and done story, like was most common at that time, at least at DC, that it wasn't, all continuing storylines. So it's a one and done story. It has great art, and it's a well crafted story, as was normal for that period, and it's told in the classic 3-act format. Say newer writers could learn a thing or two on the craft of writing and storytelling, because you seldom see that. And because it's here in one issue, they're able to get a complete story, a well-rounded story with some with a bit of characterization, and you get some of the action and adventure that you like. And it's overall such a well-crafted story, and I think, at least from what I have seen from most of the current crop of comic book writers out there now, would be hard pressed to be able to craft so complete a story such as this in for one issue. Well, of course, this was often the norm. Then they'd later have some 2 or 3 parters and something, but those are just occasional. And at this point in time, Superboy didn't have any backup stories. Of course, later the title was canceled, and later Superboy was featured heavily in adventure comics, and it was usually with backup stories, usually Legion of Superheroes, before they just made it Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, or gave that as its own title, and then Supergirl took over in adventure, and often had Aquaman backup stories in adventure comics, usually done by, or largely done by Jim Aparo, and later Mike Grell. And they were often backup stories for in the when Superboy was the lead as well. So it says, the adventures of Superman when he was a boy. Mother, Dad, please help me. My son, who did this awful thing to you? Terrible. And of course, this is a Nick Cardy cover, but the interior art is Bob Brown and Murphy Anderson. It's just a wonderful art job. And of course, Bob Brown is good, is very good in his own right, but then with the Murphy Anderson inks, it's exquisite, makes it exquisite, just as Murphy Anderson's inks also did on Kurt Swan's pencils on Superman. Of course, Kurt Swan was fine all on his own, but it was just exquisite, chef's kiss with Murphy Anderson inks on top of it. And we start right off the Superman of the Sea splash page, some kind of whirlwind, and it's sucking Superboy out to sea. And people are witnessing and wondering what's going on. And he's baffled too, because how could something be powerful enough to affect him like this? And he goes up and down into the depths of the ocean. I'm helpless. And finally he blacks out. And even naval ships see him going down, catch him on their sonar. Of course, that's not the way sonar works, but it's to illustrate the point. I know, because I've stood sonar watches when I was in the Navy. Gets down there, and here we see mer people. It says, meanwhile, deep in an ocean abyss, two weird beings confer telepathically. Uncle Harkon, Superboy has stopped struggling. Maybe he's dead. And he's still getting sucked down in farther and farther, and then and he's unconscious. And she's trying to get her uncle, who is the scientist. This is Yorel, as the red-headed mermaid's name, trying to get him to stop. And he said what he's been doing. Now he puts him in this thing, gives him something, and says how he has been trying to come up with something to help defend the people of Atlantis from menaces, and he wanted his own to create a superhero for them, and he'd been outcast because some of his failures had nearly he'd become a menace himself unintentionally. And then in the thing, this is I know this from the space, like the space gravity centrifuge. Anyway. He looks normal, and then he comes around and he goes, where am I? What's going on? And he sees the lovely young lady. He says, why are my boots over there? She goes to open the canister that he's in, and goes, no, no, no. And he's shocked. Great shock. And so how lovely his face looks there. Just the quality of the drawing. And he sees that he has a fishtail. I don't know how his trunks work, but on there, and he has the fishy tail. And it goes, and this is when he explains that he's able to do this because he had knew of Superboy and his how he was affected by the radiation of red sun, tapped into a distant red sun for part of his power supply and used that. That's how he weakened him, so he was able to do this thing. And then to demonstrate, he puts an air helmet on him, and he can't breathe at all. But he's surprised he doesn't have the strength to break free, and he tries to use his heat vision, and that doesn't work either. Oh my gosh! Just lovely work on her face there and there. And turns out that he had actually stripped him of his superpowers in the process. It was unintentional. And so while he's trying to figure out what to do with him, he puts him in a little cage. And this he finds he learns about, of course, the telepathic communications. And he asks her, said, oh, but you know the vault combination? And he's able to have the same telepathic power they do, and he plucks the combination from her mind and frees himself, and he takes off while her uncle just chastises her for letting him go. But nothing she could do, and he gets out the sea wolves, which are trained sharks, give him the scent from his boots, and off they go. And he's swimming, and that is the end. See, the third act, 3-act structure. This is the end of the first act. And in the second act, starts right off, prey of the sea wolves, and he's headed for what he thinks is a cavern, and almost into the gaping maw of some terrible sea-dwelling monster down there. And so he finds a grotto. It's where he can sit and rest and say, "Oh, I'm just not. He's so tired. He's not used to this stuff," and he's thinking about his parents. And then he realizes that he has mental powers, psychic powers, and he can see his parents from a distance. How they're wondering about what's happening because he's been gone for quite a while, and there are other menaces. Things going on in the world that need his attention. But unfortunately, his robots are right there, and they take up the slack as much as they can. But a lot of them are coming back damaged, and there's no one left to repair them. And soon the robots will run out. And then he thinks, well, maybe he can communicate with him. So he communicates telepathically with him, and tells him to come down to the shore. Near Smallville. Now, you might think, I thought Smallville was in Kansas. Remember, this is in the early 70s. Smallville was never placed in Kansas until the first Superman movie of the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. Prior to that, they had maps and stuff, and Smallville was placed what would roughly appear to be upstate New York, so they were close enough to the ocean, and so he meets them there at the beach, and he brings them up to speed. And what's happened, and so now he's got to go see what he can do, and now he's getting a little bit of precognitive stuff, and he's seeing an old ocean liner being hauled out to sea to be sunk, probably for as a artificial reef or something like that. But it's sinking prematurely out in the ocean, and he spots it, and it's coming down right on top of Atlantis. And he just automatically goes up and says, "Oh, if I just had my super strength, I could get it." And then he discovers, oh my gosh, he doesn't have the strength, but he has the mental powers and his telekinesis, and he raises it back up to the surface, and beaches it. Meanwhile, with Superboy has kind of returned, not returned, but the girl Yor-El has gone out and sought out Superboy, found him, and to warn him. See, and this is when the scientist discovers, oh, he does actually have. I was successful. He does have powers, and she meets him to warn him about the sea wolves. But that's when they get there. The sharks, the trained sharks, get there. And they are surrounded. Dun, dun, dun! Now, Act 3. You see what I mean by that 3-act structure? Okay, Superman's final ordeal. Well, he uses his psychokinetic powers to fend off the sharks, using debris from an ancient sunken galleon. And said, "Oh no, we're going to be in real trouble now, so we got to take off." That's what the scientist and his goons are thinking. So they take off to find, because I know a place where we'll be safe. Then she kisses him, and meanwhile he's seeing other disasters that he needs to attend to on the surface world, but he can't. She takes him back to the laboratory. Maybe Uncle can change you back. She get there, and it's deserted, nothing there. And this is when she reveals that she is not actually a mermaid. She is an evolutionary throwback, and she just wears the tail to appear normal. But she has legs like a normal human, but otherwise she's still a water breather. And then the scientist Harkon comes back and said, I was afraid something would happen to you. I had to return." And then the goons came and said, "Oh, it's your fault. We're going to be in so much trouble, but maybe they'll be easier on us if we take in your body." And they zap him. Zap, zap, zap. Soups uses his telekinetic powers and knocks the crap out of those goons. But the scientist is there. He's fatally wounded, and he reveals that he's got a thing that he had developed that would help his niece gain her legs, but beware, it can cause some slight brain damage and can be dangerous and stuff. And she's about to use it, and he gets a flash of precognition, seeing that something bad will happen to her if she tries to take it. He grabs it from her. The cap comes off and spills into the water and swirls around them. And then weird stuff happening. It's some kind of psychedelic. That's kind of cool there. Then he comes back, gains consciousness, doesn't know where he is, finds his boots, puts his boots on, and he sees the mermaid. Turns out both he and Uriel, as an side effect of that medication, that serum, made them lose their memories for the last few days. So he doesn't know what's going on, but he heads home, and she mourns the loss of her uncle, but finds that she has a natural fishy tail, making her a full mermaid. Well, he doesn't. Of course, Superboy knows nothing about that. He's back to doing his regular super fun things. He tells the stuff to his parents at home. He said, so I visited, and his parents fill him in on what he had told them. He says, so I visited Lost Atlantis. Strange, I don't recall a thing. Wonder if I'll ever see it again. And then, of course, they mention it because later he meets and falls in love with Lori Lemurus, who is a mermaid. This is when he's older, and I always wonder how this would tie in with the Atlantis of Aquaman. Of course it does, but of course they've retconned all that so that there are several different species. There are the fully human water breathers, and there are the fishy-tailed water breathers in another Atlantean city. So. And that's where Lori Lemurus and this Uriel girl come from. So that's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite Superboy stories from the Bronze Age. So I want to thank you for joining me. It took longer than I intended. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Do you like Superboy of this era? Do you like this Superboy story, or do you think it's crap? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And remember, comics are art.